Hello friends, welcome back. So today we will learn the module 4. In this, we will learn the data definition language, that is DDL, and what are the commands that comes under the DDL, and what are the things that we will do. We will see the uh, implementation today. Okay. Okay. So first of all, the create, alter, and drop. These three commands come under the DDL, data definition language, okay, which is used to define the tables, right? So create is a command that is used to create the new table. Okay, as we already gone through this create command once. Okay, then alter. Alter is a command that is used to update a table. Let's suppose you already have a table, right? It has some columns, but now while working with that table, you feel like you need to add a few columns as well, right? So you can use the alter command to add or remove any existing columns in the table or add a new table. Got it? And the last one is drop. Drop is basically to delete a table permanently from your databases. Okay. We will see the implementation of all the three commands later on in this video. Okay. So here is a detailed explanation. First command is add. Add is used to insert a new column in the existing table, right? Add is only for the existing table only. If you want to create a new table, then create table is a command. Okay. Then drop, as we already know, it is used to drop the existing column in the table. And modify is basically if you have a table and a specific columns and you want to modify the size of particular column, then you use the modify command. Okay. Okay. The next thing is setting default values. Most of the time we are setting default values to our columns. Okay. This is because let's suppose but there are few columns in which it is quite obvious that these tables have this particular value. Okay. So then you don't need to insert it. If you skip that value, it automatically get the default value. Okay. Let's suppose you are having a users table and you want to insert some values into that user table, right? Every time you are inserting new value and you want that every user you are adding by default set it to as active. Okay. Because new user is you are adding and make it active. So let's suppose you have a column is active and you want the default value as 1. 1 is for active, 0 is for inactive, right? Then you set the default value as 1. And every time you insert a new value, you don't need to pass the is active column value. It will automatically get 1, right? Because new user is coming, so make it as default active. Got it? This way we can use the default value. So same way it is written, ensure that a column has a predefined value when no value is specified. If you want to specifically add extra value, right? Anything apart from the default value, then you can pass the value in the insert command. It will add the that particular value. Okay. Okay. Last is the most important topic is data constraints, right? Why we need data constraints? This is to validate data so that a database have a valid and consistent data. Okay. The first one is not null. Okay. Any column you want to set not null, that will ensure that the column cannot store the null values. Let's suppose you are in the users table, you are setting a user without a roll number or without a name. Okay. So it is not a standard, right? If whenever you are adding any user, it must have a user ID and a name as well. So you want to skip these kind of irrelevant data. So you can make that column as a not null so that every time anybody is inserting it, they must pass the values. Okay. Then the next is unique. Okay. Unique is a constraint that allow us to add all the columns as a unique. Okay. Let's suppose a user, uh, ABC user is entered in the database and you don't want the same user to be entered again, right? And unique could be a, combination or collection of a columns as well, right? And the third is primary key. Okay, so most of the time we are making a numeric value as in primary key in most of the table. Let's suppose the user table, then we will set a roll number or user ID as in primary key, right? If I employee table, then employee ID as a primary key most of the time. Why we set the primary key? Because as it is mentioned, primary key is a combination of not null plus unique. Okay. So the primary key should not be empty and it is unique. Like employee ID 1, it is never coming again. Employee ID 1, it must exist any number, right? Why we are not setting any alphanumeric or varchar type as a primary key? Because a name, let's suppose alphanumeric is anything you can say address, right? Or a varchar type we can say as a name. It can be duplicate. Okay, it can't be unique always because two persons can have a same name, right? That's why we are not making any other key as a primary key. Okay. So, in the most of the interviews, many interviewer ask you the question, what is the difference between primary key and unique key, right? It's almost same, only a key differences. In the primary key, you are not allowed to add a null value, right? Because it is a combination of null, not null plus unique. But in the unique key, you can enter a null value once because next time whenever you are entering a null, it will show you a duplication error because null it treat as a value it already exists, right? That's the only difference. So in primary key you can add a null, you cannot add a null. And a unique key you can add a null once. That's the only difference. Okay. Okay, let's proceed further. The next is foreign key. Okay, so as written it ensures the differential integrity between the tables. Okay, why we use a foreign key? Foreign key is basically we use when we want to make a relation with two tables. Okay, it's one to one or one to many as well. Okay, let's suppose you have a school database. Okay, and there is a main admin database and there is a students table, right? So you want to make ensure like whenever any student get registered, it has an entry in the admin table first, then it can have the entry in the student tables because a student cannot exist without an entry in the admin table, right? So in these kind of relationship, what we do, we will make a primary and foreign key relationship. In the admin table, in the student admin table, we can add the primary key as student ID. And in the students table, we will set the student ID at foreign key. Okay. So what it will happen, it will make sure that whenever you are adding a new student in the student table, it does exist in the primary key table. Okay. So that we have the data consistency in both the tables. Right. And I will show you the syntax for all these keys. Okay, the next is a check. Check is a basically validates the condition. Let's suppose you are adding any salary. Let's suppose you are adding salary in the salary column. Okay, so if you are adding a check constraint, it will check like you are adding the salary, whatever the salary you are adding, it should be greater than zero, right? Then these kind of checks we can add with the check constraint. Okay. And the last not the least is auto increment. Okay. As it is mentioned, it automatically generate a unique numeric values. Okay. So why we need auto increment? Okay. This is used when we want to reduce the overhead. Okay. Let's suppose you have a users table and we want a new column in the database that is user ID is a unique and before that is a serial number for the count of the user, right? So you don't need to pass every time first one, two, three, right? The sequence number because if multiple users are working on the same table, it would be hard to manage the sequence, right? That's why we set these kind of column as an auto increment so that we don't need to pass the number. Automatically in every insert, it will enhance the value. Let's suppose in the users table, I have set the insert query, okay, with my username, okay, it will take the auto increment value as automatically as 1. Okay, if the another user who is also working on the users table he set another record, then it will automatically get the sequence number as 2. Okay, this way auto increment will work automatically without passing the value. Okay, that's it. Let's see the implementation part now. Okay, so let's see the implementation part of the constraints. Okay, here I have written a create command in which I am creating a table persons with a few columns, and in these columns I am adding the constraints. Okay, so the syntax is create table, table name, and this is the person ID is a column that is for the unique person ID. and the type is as int, and I'm setting it as not null, right? Because I don't want anyone to skip this ID. And I'm setting this as an auto increment because this is something I can need in numeric value, and I just wanted this for sequence purpose. That's why I make it as an auto increment. Then the column name is last name. The type is varchar. 255 is the correct length, and I'm setting this as not null. Okay. Similarly, you can add a not null to the first name as well as per the requirement. There is no specific rule which columns need to be null or not. It's all depend upon the architecture of the project. Okay. And this is the column age. I have set the type as int, and I have added a check constraints here. We have to check if the age is greater than 18 or not. Okay. And this is a column in which I want to set the status of a person as alive. Okay, so the type is as Boolean and default is set as 1 because every time we are making entry, it should be 1. Okay. And here adding a primary key to the person ID only so that this key is a uniquely identified in all the table. Got it? Okay, let me execute this one. Clicking on this, go. Yep, it's a success. Let's see the table. Okay, one more thing. If you want to see the records of a table, let's suppose select star from persons. Okay, this table is actually empty now. So it will show 0 records because there is no record in this table. In this way, if we want to see the structure of a table, right, then we can use the disk command. Okay. So see, this is the structure of the table. You can see person ID type is int and it's set as auto increment. Last name, first name, age is alive. Okay. Let's try to insert a value in this table now. Insert into persons values. Okay, I'm just pasting it just to know the sequence of columns. So first is a person ID. I don't want to pass it. Okay, then I'm passing the other field value. Okay, let's suppose ABC the last name and XYZ is the first name of any person. I'm just doing this for a testing purpose or the raw data as well. Okay, the next is a age. Let's suppose I am adding 20. Okay, and the is alive column. I don't want to pass value. I'm just copying this because I want to show you the negative testing as well. Okay. Click on go. It is showing us error. What it is showing, the column count doesn't match the value at row 1. You got the error? The thing is, we are passing values to the 3 column only, and the in our actual table we have multiple columns, right? Then as we are skipping the value of few columns, we have to mention here the column name, which column name we are passing the value. Okay, let's suppose I am passing the value for last name, first name, and the last one is age. Okay, as I mentioned, we need to pass the column name only in a case we are sending a value to few columns only, not to all. If we are sending insert to all the columns, then we don't need to pass these column names, right? Let's execute now. Now it is got executed. Okay, let's see the values now. Select star from persons. Click on go. See, I just entered the value ABC, XYZ, and age is 20. The person ID, which is auto increment, and the is alive status that we set as default, it is automatically inserted. Got it? Let's check the. mm, Believe yes. Let's check the age validation here. Okay, let's suppose in this time I'm adding the age as well as 12. Okay, so that I want to check the is active or the is check is working or not. I'm passing 12 and click on go. It throws us error because the check one constraint is violated because the syntax we have set as age should be greater than 18 and we are passing 12. It doesn't allow that. Got it? So this way you can add any constraint to your database tables as per the requirement of your architecture of the system. Okay. So let's start from persons. Let's see the table now. Okay. This is the row in a table. I want to add at this time I feel like I want to add a one new field as well in the column. Let's suppose this is only one record. If any database in your existing database of the project, right, it has multiple rows, multiple user data, then it's not allowed to delete a table and create a new. We have to alter the table now, existing table only. Okay. So the command is alter table, table name that is persons, add address, varchar. Let's suppose the value is 50. Okay. And here only we can set the default value as well. If you want to set any default value for the new column, you can do that. Okay, click on OK. So it shows the success. Go. See, a new column is added and we didn't set any default value. That's why it is showing as null. Let's suppose we want to delete a value, alter table, or we want to delete a column, okay, in the existing table. Alter table persons, drop column, address. Okay, go. It shows success. Let's see the person's table. Now the address column is gone. Got it? Okay, that's it for a day. So keep practicing. And if you have any doubt, you can comment that. And stay tuned for the next videos. Thank you. Thank you so much.